Hello.
My greetings. Well met. Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 279 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is a Friday night, live from New York. It's me, Ridiculous Hat. Happy BlizzCon. From Karazhan, California, we got Botticus.
Yo.
From Undercity, Pennsylvania, we got Edelweiss.
Hey everyone, back in Undercity.
Edelweiss was very excited. You can't hear it. Well, you could hear some of it, but she lifted her arms. It was very exciting. And also, listener from wherever you are, happy BlizzCon. We are supported directly by you. If you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/CoinConcede. Also support us by leaving an iTunes review, totally free. Really helps other people find the show. Thank you to everyone who's done that lately. Thank you to our two newest patrons, Casual R and Pi. I'm talking faster than usual because there's so much to get into from BlizzCon, but Botticus, you left a tantalizing bit here in Life and Ladder. Tell us what's going on.
So I know we all want to get into BlizzCon reactions, but I don't understand why you two didn't tell me about Token Druid. You literally just okay. I'm gonna be a little bit hyperbolic here. Yeah. Hat predicted exactly this, which is you all already told me about this. But you get to play Ancestral Recall and frickin' Black Lotus and just all the good Token Druid cards. The deck is broken. Deck
Well,
is so good.
I don't know about broken, but yeah.
No, it's really good. Yeah, Hat predicted exactly that I would say you didn't tell me about something that they told me about repeatedly. But yeah, Token Druid's really good, and actually played a bunch of it. And just recently, my win rate started declining a little bit. But yeah, that deck
Warriors?
is... No. I faced a Lake Thresher on turn 5. Lake Thresher's pretty good. Some of the mages, it was just like, I don't know, the deck is just really cool. It feels like you get to set up your board states a lot more than the old Token Druid, which was just like, blah, here's my stuff, can you deal with it? This one feels like you have to plan out a few turns in advance. And yeah, also getting to essentially twin spell Ancestral Recall, that I enjoy doing that a lot.
Oh, so you're playing the solar version, not the lunar version. Did you solar Arbor up at all? Because that's a play.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But mostly I do a lot of solar Savage Roaring, and
Oh, yeah.
people die.
5
People
mana,
just flat out die.
5 mana, you dead now.
It's just like, hey, they have 3/1/1s. What could they possibly do? And then you're like, you're dead.
There was a game I played with it a little while ago where my control warlock opponent, they had like 6 minions in play, and they had lethal setup next turn, and I had 2 2/2s in play, and they chose not to trade, and I went solar roar, and they died. Because, 4 Savage Roars will go a long way. My opponent should have probably traded. But, yeah, it's Token Druid is cool, and, like, it has some really nutty, scammy draws. Gibberling is... When you have Gibberling in the opener, you're not Token Druid, you're a Gibberling deck now. And you mulligan differently, like, you find your Blooms and your Innervates or whatever, and you just, like, Nature Studies and, like, and do a bunch of stuff. And then your opponent is like... Where's my Gibberling button? I have it. Oh, your opponent is like...
I mean...
That's what your opponent does. But then when you don't have Gibberling in the opening hand, you mulligan a little different.
By the way.
You didn't hear it.
I don't know if the audience heard it. I feel bad because I love that noise.
It's
I do
probably
love
too
that
quiet.
noise.
Yeah, it's definitely there. But yeah, it's when you're when you draw Gibberling in the opener, you're a Gibberling deck, and otherwise you're a Token Druid deck, and you have different paths to victory, and Fungal Fortunes gets you a lot of resources, and you can keep up with a lot of things except Risky Skipper. And even then, like you can do a lot, and it's not mindless. Like, there's a bunch of decisions to be made. The sequencing is difficult, but it's still powerful. But when you lose, it feels like, yeah, I should have lost that game. They had more removal. It was enough.
Yeah, it feels a lot more to me like the old Living Mana decks.
Yeah.
Those felt like they had a lot more play than the last Token Druid deck, which was like the twin spell +1/+1.
Oh, Force Aid
everything.
over and over again, and just like you had 17
Yeah.
boards.
Yeah, and that one just kind of felt like, here's my board, do you lose? Here's my board, do you lose? And then most of the time it wasn't enough. But this one really feels like it has some play to it. So been playing actually quite a bit of that. So much higher on the ladder than I have been in the past month. So got up to like whatever it is, Diamond 2 or whatever, in the course of a couple days, because my win rate was insane because the deck is really good. So I'm sorry if you told me about it and I didn't listen. I've been playing it and it's good and it's fun.
I mean, we may not have told you directly, but I think we each expressed our climbs with the deck.
Yeah. You being stubborn and then changing your mind when you start winning a lot is also a known effect. We can call that the Botticus effect, as a corollary to the Botticus agenda.
I feel like it's not specifically the Botticus effect. I feel like it affects many people.
Yes.
But yes, I have been known to succumb to this effect basically every time.
It's a thing.
As many possible times as could happen, it has happened to me.
Edelweiss, what have you been doing in Life and Ladder? Edelweiss, what have you been... Oh, there's... Something's going on here. Okay. Technical difficulties. This is my stalling for time.
Why don't you go ahead? You'll go second, which is weird.
Because I want to make sure that
go.
recordings aren't messed up, and I am concerned. I have concerns.
Okay.
Edelweiss, are you still with us? Is your recording still going? Say stuff. Please tell me you can hear me. You can't.
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, no, you sound awful. Okay. Check voice and video and then drop in the call and come back. Please. Good. Big Botticus. Yes, much better.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, it stayed the same in Audacity, so Audacity should be good.
Okay.
All right.
If it's not, I'll just be sad. Yes.
Hopefully. Same.
All right. So, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, Edelweiss, what have you been up to, Life and Ladder wise?
Well, I played some Slay the Spire earlier today.
That's a good game.
I still love custom game modes. So I did a sealed run with the Watcher, and I turned on Hoarder, which is an interesting one. It says every time you would add a card to your deck, instead add 3 copies of it, and you can no longer remove cards from your deck at merchants. Which I didn't realize meant that I started with 30 cards from picking sealed. So that was interesting. I ended up with 6 copies of Seek and Chemical X relics and a bunch of X cost spells. We just did the hit maximum mana and throw lightning balls 999 times at our opponents. Would have killed the final boss in one turn if that was allowed. If they didn't cap your damage.
So are you saying that 0 mana demonic tutor is good? Is that what you're saying?
Particularly when the upgraded version lets you find another tutor and another, like when you have
sorry for all the Magic references, folks, but
we're referencing multiple non-Hearthstone games simultaneously. It's pretty impressive. The only other thing I'll mention is, in that format, take Perfected Strike. It's pretty good, because there are a lot of cards that have the word strike in your deck.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah. It was interesting, and I think I dealt so much excess damage to the enemies that I actually broke the boss. I had to make sure that I didn't do too much mana on my X cost spell, because it would try to cast the lightning strikes as many times as I put it. So I was trying to redo it over and over until I got a low enough number that it wasn't just going to be sitting there for 10 to 20 minutes striking my opponent with lightning.
Too much lightning. That'll happen.
Too much lightning.
Yes. How about Hearthstone? I see you've been streaming a good bit.
Yes, I wish I had tried a little harder to do it while I was back in Cleveland, but it was just so cold and logistics were a little complicated that I didn't want to do that. But I had a great month in January. Looking forward to continuing streams. I'm thinking I might also start doing some later night streams when I'm just sort of up anyway. I may as well be streaming myself. Those might be more likely to be Magic. Not necessarily, but I've gotten back into Magic. There's a sealed open event tomorrow on Arena that I will attempt at least once. If I get to day 2, there's some cash prize potential. So, but yeah, I'm mostly hyped for all the new stuff, and I'm gonna be sad because I have to wait so long.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it in a bit. I've been experimenting and playing just a whole lot of games, including Hearthstone, but not exclusively. I have dipped back into Magic a little bit just because I want to see what's going on there. Not a lot, but enough that I saw what wildcards I had, and I built a historic mono blue deck because I'm just that kind of person. And there's a deck in Magic called Rogues, and I built it, and it's very much not like Rogue in Hearthstone. It's yeah. My co-hosts are shaking their heads, but it's fun.
Is that the minion type deck?
It is, and it's also a mill deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like feels more priest-like, honestly.
It is something that does not really exist in Hearthstone. I don't think priest would be maybe the closest analogy, but it's not really priest. It's like what if they allowed Ticketus to be a 2-mana card and you got to do it all the time. It's a version of Warlock that doesn't exist. But that's not the majority of my time. Slay the Spire is still really fun, but Hearthstone, I've been playing the other Gibberling deck, where if you have Self-Sharpening Sword in your hand, congrats, you're a sword deck now. And if you don't, then you get to be normal aggro rogue. But if you have sword in your opening hand, you're like, alright, I'm keeping this Deadly Poison and this Cutting Class. And if you don't, then you're Penflinger aggro. And the deck is kind of the aggro rogue deck that we wanted in Scholomance, where we top the curve at 2 or 3 and play Voracious Reader. We top this curve at 3. I know Cutting Class is in the deck, but that costs 0, so that does not count. And the volume of damage this deck can put out in 2 turns is unbelievable. I had a really, really amazing game that I put on Twitter where let me find this exact. I want to find this exact tweet because it was amazing.
Yeah, I've played against that deck a couple times, and it does not seem particularly good unless you draw a Self-Sharpening Sword and buff it.
The Penflinger list, because I'm not playing Steel Dancers. Yeah. Steel Dancers are bad. The Penflinger list, I've done 3 coachings this week, and even without Sword, we killed an Allura that tipped on 4. Just killed them. The match I played against, I think I had a Sword in this game. I did have a Sword in this game, yeah. But even without Sword, I found it to be good. But with Sword, my Enrage Warrior opponent went turn 2 Coin Wormall, my only minion, turn 3 Ankar, turn 4 Enrage Bloodsworn, turn 5 Skipper Smith Raider gain 17, turn 6 draw 5 cards with Battle Rage Sword Eater, and then they died. And then they were dead.
Okay. Did not realize what deck we were talking about. I was thinking of a very different deck.
What were you thinking of?
Because a lot of those... Wait, Self-Sharpening Sword.
Yeah, the Rogue card. 3 mana 1/4 weapon that when you attack, it gets +1 attack, right?
Right.
Yeah, I was
how did you gain 14?
No, they did. That's what they did.
Oh,
they gained 17, and then they died 2 turns later. Yeah.
Got very confused. All of a sudden thought you were talking about a warrior deck. Did not make any sense in my head. Now, we're on board now. I understand.
I like to just remember that if you have 2 Penflingers, Prep Abyss and 6 mana is 10 damage.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes on there. And I had a moment, I was doing a coaching the other day where we had Prep, Swindle, and Coin Greyheart in hand. It's like, all right, we're going to prep the Swindle first because Greyheart Sage can draw a sword and Swindle can't, so we're going to play the other card draw first, and that's why you don't keep Prep Swindle in the opener, because you can't ever Prep Swindle into a sword, so you just mulligan, get 2 cards deeper for free. But you really don't need sword for it, and I dagger up and then enchant my daggers with poisons an awful lot. like a lot of the time, just to get cutting class going. And it's totally okay. You can super win without the sword because everything in the deck just doesn't cost enough mana. Again, because that's what Rogue does right now. And Nitro Boost made cutting class pretty dangerous because you can just draw a bunch of cards for free, and Secret Passage will just get you more 0-mana card draw that you get to keep the cards. So I've been enjoying that a lot, but it's not the only thing I've been playing. Still been playing some Corrupt Priest. And Corrupt Priest also very entertaining. And I don't know, playing whatever else I find. But I am very much looking forward to all the new stuff coming to Hearthstone. And there's a lot of it, so let's go right now to the news.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so we have the announcement. The new year of Hearthstone is going to be the year of the Gryphon. We have the usual 3 expansion year. And you'll have to excuse me because I was at work during this announcement. So if I missed anything, I know my co-host will back me up. Because I was only able to kind of pay attention to everything. But we even have a roadmap again for this year, which I love. Having that is always good. And there's just oh my gosh, there's so many things. So the first expansion of the year is going to be Forged in the Barrens. It's kind of a the first set is almost like a horde themed set with alliance the alliance set to be coming later in the year. They're really going to, I guess, focus on 10 like heroes of Warcraft, 10 separate heroes over the course of the year.
Yeah, 10 mercenaries, I think.
10 mercenaries, yeah, is what they're calling them. And that's going to be kind of a theme over the course of the year. Not exactly the same thing as like the story theme where we had with the 2 years ago.
With Year of the Dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, Year of the Dragon. But yeah, don't really know what they're going to do for the third set, but kind of these are Barrens is very iconic in WoW lore. Kind of an iconic area, so be interesting to see what they do for the Alliance. I'm assuming it'll be another area that is pretty iconic for the Alliance as well. But we'll have a full reveal of the core set, which we learned about last week on February 25th. Here are the cards we know about that will be in the core set. We have Anoyotron, Tomb Pillager, Tyrion is remaining.
Hold on. Stop right there.
Fireball.
Stop right there. Did you say Tomb Pillager?
I did.
Did you say Tomb Pillager?
Yes, I did.
Can we be excited about that for a second? We can just pause right here and just I want to. Can you believe they're bringing this card back?
I mean, if it wasn't for the card before it, I would be more excited probably. Not that they have anything to do with each other, but I don't know. Anoyotron to me seems like a pretty powerful return of a card. But maybe I'm misremembering.
You're probably thinking of Giggling Inventor. Giggling Inventor was way better than Anoyotron. So just for people that haven't played with these cards, because they're going to be a lot of things. Anoyotron is a 2-mana 1/2 Taunt and Divine Shield. You've heard Hello Hello, I'm sure. It was in Battlegrounds for a second. Giggling Inventor spat out 2 of these on turn 5. That was really annoying. On turn 2, I think it will be less impactful than you realize. But I'm glad the little guy is back. Tomb Pillager, on the other hand, Rogue 4-mana 5/4 Death Rattle, add a coin to your hand. This card was bananas the entire time it was in Standard. Like, it was really, really good the entire time it's in Standard. It's a powerful threat as well as a combo card and mana for Rogue. It's a really strong card.
Yeah, I do think that it's going to be seeing a lot of play, but I wonder how it compares to modern Rogue things. Because when we first had Tomb Pillager, I believe we were still doing Gadgets and Auctioneer stuff with Rogue. There were lots of other things going on in the class at the time, and we also didn't have something like Foxy Fraud, which is your coin when you're not on coin. So I wonder if it may be, like, as hype as I am for this, maybe it won't be quite as powerful as we remember just fitting into the modern game. It'll be interesting to see. It's certainly a very worthy threat on 4. Like 5 attack is still a lot with upside once it dies. So
Yeah, I mean, I was more looking at Annoyotron as Annoyotron as like a neutral defensive minion, which we don't have a lot of great ones right now. Like we've definitely felt missing your tar creepers and stuff like that. So this will be interesting to see if it'll be able to fill that role. And as far as Tomb Pillager, I honestly didn't get a huge chance to play it. Was Auctioneer 6 mana by the time Tomb Pillager was in Standard?
Yes. It's
Okay.
Tomb Pillager Dog. I remember being very excited about this card because he said it undoes the nerf. And it was a part of the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan Miracle Rogue deck, which is the strongest version I ever got to play, because Conceal was still legal. So you had Small Time Buck and Patches, you had Conceal, and then in your mid-game your threat was Tomb Pillager after they killed your Small Time Buck and your Patches, and then you had Gadgetzan with the coin. So it was a really powerful 1/2/3. We don't have Small Time Buccaneer and Patches anymore. For the people that weren't playing then, Small Time Buccaneer is a 1-mana 1/2 pirate that whenever you had a weapon equipped, it got +2 attack. And Rogue typically had a weapon on 2 because that's what the hero power does. So it was just always a 3/2 and a 1/1 charge. Like it was a neutral Flame Imp that also gave you a free 1/1. And then after they killed that, then you curved into Tomb Pillager and you hit him for 5. And then after that, you curved into Gadgetzan and then you killed them. It was very, very strong. So yeah, we don't have quite that now. And, a 4-mana 5/4 is not going to measure up the same way, especially not in a world with Rush. But still, giving Rogues coins on a reasonably statted minion is a powerful thing. I'm curious to see how it holds up.
And then, as I said earlier, Tyrion and Fireball will remain in the core set. Don't have to worry about these iconic cards leaving. I was kind of wondering about Fireball just because I don't know. While it's very iconic, it also leads to a lot of face damage. I don't know how much that's still within the. Definitely seems like it's still within the mage archetypes that they're looking to have. But we also have another returning
Well, wait a minute.
card.
Fireball is a little different. They're changing something about Fireball.
Yeah,
it's a fire card.
It is, and we actually have all of the spells or is every spell getting a tag, or is just a good portion of them getting tags? Essentially, they're getting tribe-like tags attached to a bunch of spells, and I had it listed somewhere.
My guess, we have it under the Barrens section because this is technically a Barrens mechanic that is being backdated. But there are like 7 spell minion types, except they're spell types now. My guess is that for every spell in Standard, it will be updated, and the cards that are going to Wild may not be retroactively updated. But we'll
I would assume
they listed exact numbers. They list exact numbers of what they're updating. Like Arcane, they're adding to 44 spells from past sets. Fel, they're adding to 22. Shadow, they're adding to 109. Maybe it is every spell.
Gosh, that sounds like everything.
I don't know.
Or at least the vast majority.
So there's Arcane, Fel, Fire, Frost, Holy, Nature, and Shadow. It's interesting, though. I feel like there are definitely cards that do not fall into some of these categories.
Yeah, like they won't give the quests. The quest won't have a spell type, right?
Right. Like, so not every spell will have a type, but it essentially lets them do more interesting things with like spell damage, and also I'm assuming there will be things like when you cast a spell of this type, something could happen, or etc. etc.
Yeah,
or discover a spell of X type,
right.
Draw a spell of X type.
Yeah, we have examples of actually those in the Forge in the Barrens section. There are some new cards revealed that specifically interact with only certain spell types. We'll get to that after we get through the giant pile of news that we're still getting through in just a year of the Gryphon and core set.
Right. So continuing on, some cards have come back and been improved, like Menagerie Warden now costs 5 mana and is a 4/4. So slight buff to a old wild card that initially was getting some hype and did not quite live up to it. But
this is the
maybe it can
funniest
come
thing
back
in
and
the
be
world to
stronger.
me. This is the funniest. So those of you that were not playing back when this was revealed in One Night in Karazhan, there were people freaking out for like a month about how Stranglethorn Tiger into 6 mana 5/5 Menagerie Warden, which would make a second 5/5 stealth beast, was gonna break the meta, and it saw 0 play after about 12 hours. People tried it and then immediately died to Spirit Claws, and were like, "Well, this is bad," and never played it again.
Think about it now. Coin Stranglethorn Tiger into Menagerie Warden.
No. Silverback Patriarch coin Menagerie Warden. Wait a minute.
Too broke.
That's
too broken.
You know what else costs 3? The King. The King.
Oh, there we go.
I have to have a Mukla
So,
soundbite. Hold on. I 100% have to have a Mukla soundbite on here. There's no way I don't. There's a... Where is my Mukla?
I can wait.
That's
no
not Mukla.
longer.
That's a different... Alright, just keep going.
I'm going to keep going.
I was thinking Moonfang.
That'd be fun.
Also, yeah. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Assassinate got a buff. Finally in line with the other classes. You had your Polymorph and you had your Hex that got nerfed up to 4 mana, but they never buffed Assassinate. So now we have 4 mana Assassinate. Still probably questionable, but we'll see. Who knows? Who knows? And then yeah, we also got pretty big news that we got some redesigns of some very iconic dragons that people may know about, with some pretty awesome art. So we have a redesigned Ysera, which now has a battle cry to add one of each dream card to your hand, but also these dream cards are likely to get changed. For instance, the one that is actually, I think, called Dream, which returns a minion to hand, now can only return an opponent's minion to hand. Very key, so that we don't go infinite. Talked about this a little bit right before the show. We also have Malygos, the Spell Weaver, which has a battle cry to draw spells until your hand is full. So I'm sorry to all the combo Malygos players. Unfortunately, it seems like Malygos is going to be much more of a value card now. And then Deathwing the Destroyer, which is still a 10 mana 12/12 battle cry, destroy all other minions, but instead of discarding your whole hand, you just discard a card for each creature or each minion destroyed. So slightly better. Doesn't necessarily discard your whole hand if there's not a bunch of minions on board. So really the idea, I guess, they had is to update some of these dragons that are not really seeing any play. These really iconic, kind of awesome dragons, they really want to see people playing them more. So just giving them an update. I think Edelweiss was asking kind of in our show chat if we think that maybe Alexstrasza is also going to see a rework. I strongly think that Nosdormu will hopefully see a rework.
Yes,
because
a rework called the delete button. Rework him into the trash can.
I mean, I guess just take him out of standard. But yeah,
wait a minute. There's a tweet as of 3 minutes ago from one Cora Songbird HS. You may know her from starting this show. So a player named Stefan Sumadin on Twitter said, "I also like the new legendary dragons, though I don't quite understand if all of them are supposed to get a makeover. Would be shocked if Nosdormu that had to get hard-coded to never spawn randomly doesn't get touched." And Cora said, "We would hate for Nosdormu to feel left out, smiley face." So, yeah.
Rework.
In terms of things that are not surprising, we have a list that includes this tweet, because I don't think anybody expected old Nosdormu. The most surprising thing about old Nosdormu is that it wasn't reworked way sooner.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to to touch those cards because they're so iconic. Like the fact that Malygos is completely different now, will be interesting. I don't know necessarily how I feel about it because I liked Malygos, but I also didn't necessarily like when Malygos was the best thing to be doing. So I don't know. What do we think? What do you two think about some of these redesigns? Which one's your favorite?
You should
Ooh,
ask Edelweiss this question after we talk about the next couple bullet points because there's an entire class that got a rework that's right up her alley. Yeah. I love the updated creative, and so as a spoiler for tomorrow, we're doing 2 episodes in 2 days. And tomorrow is a crossover episode with Hearth Casual, which is Ro, Meltizord, and Wicked Kitten. And Ro and I were part of a group interview earlier today. When I say group interview, I expected a whole bunch of people. It was Ro, me, and one other reporter that was multitasking with another panel. So we got to ask a lot of questions to Ben Lee, the game director, and Nathan Lyonsmith, the production director. And a bunch of things came up, but one of the things that came up is generic spell damage is going away except in very small numbers. And the Malygos redesign is a big part of that because generic large chunks of spell damage is bad. It's bad. So you might see it on elementals, but it's most likely going to be tied to a specific school of magic. Like it's going to be, big buffs to nature damage or arcane damage or whatever, as opposed to generic spell damage. And honestly, seeing a new Mally, I don't know how good this new Mally is, but I knew that the old Mally was either bad or oppressive, and I'm really glad that we got the redesign. But as far as the coolest one, this new Deathwing is sweet. Oh, it's so sweet. Yeah.
New Deathwing is just being a lot less all in, makes it feel actually runnable in.
You would think
more
about putting
controlling
it in your
decks.
deck, right? Like you would actually think about it, and it would be
you
correct
actually think about it.
sometimes.
Rather than, discovering it off of a Dragon Lackey and then crying when you Elucia and forget that they can discard your whole hand.
Yeah.
Which has been the Deathwing experience recently, I feel like.
The Deathwing experience recently has been the 8-mana Warrior one, which is a super cool card.
Well, sure. Yeah, that's a great one as well.
Yeah.
But Malygos, I am intrigued by because if you have a mildly low spell deck, you could targeted draw all your spells and not risk overdrawing, or if you know that something's gonna be free or cheap enough to spend, then you don't overdraw. It feels like it could enable some combo decks, but in a very different way than spell damage, and so it gets rid of that design limitation of, oh, we can't have cheap spells that deal damage because what about Malygos, which I think is really a good benefit for the game.
Of note.
But it's also neutral card draw.
Of note. Ysera Unleashed rotates out when this card rotates in. Thank goodness this is not 9 mana draw all my dream portals right now. Thank goodness.
Yep.
That would be gross. But yeah, the card draw thing as well, this also came up. I'm going to give a sneak peek. They're moving away from some classes not drawing cards. Ben Lee said today, we're a card game, players need to draw their cards. So you should expect to see card draw both in neutral and in every class. And I think this is a good example.
Drawing cards is fun.
Yeah.
Drawing cards is fun.
And running out of cards sucks. Yeah.
So, I mean, I do it's interesting because I sometimes like the aspect of running your opponent out of cards sometimes. Sometimes that is a good experience to be able to have where you just run them out of resources, but also let me draw cards. I want cards.
Yeah.
Wash brings up a good point. You could draw all your Cthulhu pieces if you have, a limited number of spells.
That feels kind of like Rin, where you play a 9-mana card to draw 4 or 5-mana cards. If you can get that going, you can get that going. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's, again, I would say a little ambitious. But I like that this kind of thing is there, and I like that it's not the old Malygos.
Yes.
And Hat mentioned spell damage kind of going away, but we do have a new Shaman minion that has some unconditional spell damage and is pretty cool minion. I would guess that this card replaces the old 1-mana Overload Shaman card that never saw any play because it died instantly all the time. But we have Novice Zapper, which is a 1-mana 3/2 Overload 1, but also spell damage +1, which is pretty neat. In addition, we also have some other new cards I'll go over real quick, and then we can talk about them. Fel Soul Jailer, battle cry, your opponent discards a minion, and then you, when it death rattles, you return it to their hand. It's a 5-mana 4/6. We also have Overlord Runthak, hopefully I pronounced that right, which is a legendary neutral minion, 5-mana 3/6 with Rush, and whenever this attacks, give +1/+1 to all minions in your hand. And something that they mentioned on the stream is that hand buff is a thing that just kind of exists in the game, and they want to have a bit of support for it in the game, so we're just going to print a card that gives a little bit of support to that so that they don't have to constantly print hand buff stuff. So Overlord is going to be a card. And then we have Vanessa Van Cleef, which did they say this is replacing Edwin?
Yes.
Or this
Yes,
is...
they did.
Just
okay.
like she did in the story in the Brotherhood. She's doing that here. And it's a fascinating design.
So
it makes me so happy because I had an idea for this exact thing, at least thematically. My card design was different, but just of replacing Edwin with Vanessa Van Cleef. And I feel like looking back at the feedback I received on that card, I think they were just smiling, realizing that, like, you know, they had this in the works and someone submitted Vanessa Van Cleef.
Which she is a 2-mana 2/3 combo, add a copy of the last card your opponent played to your hand, which is pretty neat. It has a lot of there's a lot of strategy involved, and also now knowing that this card exists, eventually people will potentially think to play around it if they are able to order their cards differently, so that if their opponent has a Vanessa, they don't get the best spell that you played in your turn. And then lastly, the last new card is a priest card, Thrive in the Shadows, which is 2-mana, discover a spell from your deck. It is a shadow spell. Oh boy. I mean, this just reminds me of Shadow Visions. People can talk all about how it doesn't add a copy to your hand, and yeah, sometimes that was relevant, but also most of the time, nope. It was just good. And Divine Spirit Interfire has not really been a deck for a while. I don't know that. Wait,
Divine Spirit is not in standard anymore. Yeah, long gone.
That's why.
Not gonna come back. I think your fears can be abated with that, and Mind Blast is also not going to be around.
And Cleric of Scales is currently in standard. We've had this effect in standard for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So
that required a dragon in your hand.
It did, but we printed Draconic Studies. Like, you can do it right now. It's not hard to get a dragon in hand. We've had this kind of tutoring in Priest. It's, of course, with a dragon is a little bit more restrictive, but hitting a dragon is not really, it's trivially easy at this point.
It's a lot more restrictive.
With Draconic Studies and like any 3 dragons you want, you can pretty easily hit it. Like, I don't think there's a combo deck that would not exist now that will exist because of this card. Now, I agree.
I'm not saying that this enables a combo deck. I'm just saying that Shadow Visions was a card that was quite powerful.
Yes.
And I'm glad that this card is going to be in the core set because I like this kind of effect.
But it is very strong. It is a very, very strong card. For a while, I maintained that Shadow Visions was probably the best Priest expansion card ever printed. Now, I do think the copy part was a big part of that, and I do think part of it is that we were getting broken stuff like Mind Blasts and Potions of Madness and Divine Spirits and Inner Fires, and this still, anything that lets you search for a specific type of thing is a deck-building challenge in a way and can be dangerous. I'm glad they're trying it. If it's too good, they'll nerf it to 3 mana, and then the card will be bad. And it's worth trying. It's worth trying.
I mean, to me, this card, like, it's not quite on the same power level, but it kind of reminds me of the Shaman card that draws a weapon from the deck.
Yeah, like, or a Scavenger's Ingenuity or something.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
It's just I'm happy to see it. That's all. That's what I.
It'll be good but balanced, I think.
Right. Unless they print more cards like Potion of Madness.
I feel confident they won't do that.
And then
also by the way, Wild Priest X just got a lot better. A lot better, because now they have 1 to 2 more Shadow Visions.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, as if they needed it. And then they also there's going to be some big changes coming to Shaman in the 20.0 update, including buffing a few staples of Shaman like Feral Spirit, Lightning Storm, and Earth Elemental. Feral Spirits, now same card, but it only overloads 1. I don't know why it took so long for this card to get this buff, but it needs it really bad. And then Lightning Storm, have no fear. There's no more crossing your fingers every time you play this card. It's just gonna do 3 damage. The way things should be. It still overloads you for 2, still a big cost to play it. I don't know that it makes it necessarily viable, but there's no more...
It's deleting hyphen RNG. Deleting hyphen RNG.
It's just good. Yeah.
I'm just so happy that's not a thing they're doing anymore. Like, it's... Even if this card isn't good, I don't care because it no longer offends me. It's no longer like, sometimes my removal spell just doesn't work. And there is an important corollary to this that we'll talk about in a second.
I'm happy to see it fall in line with other 5 mana deal 3 damage to the board effects. Just not having that risk of you're getting less value for your 5 mana is nice. Spirit Wolves was not good for a 5 mana card. That was and Earth Giant, Overload 3 is just a ton. So Earth Giant, I feel like
Earth Elemental.
Sorry, Earth Elemental.
And Feral Spirits.
Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. The wolves.
The
wolves, the giants.
Technically correct.
I've played all of these cards plenty of times, and they will just all feel way better. I doubt we play Earth Elemental again. I think the last time I played that was in the Madame Goya Shaman days, where we played Ancestral Spirit on it. I don't think we'll be doing that again, but I'm very happy to start playing with, this buffed Lightning Storm and buffed Feral Spirits. Feral Spirits feels actually really solid now, that you can curve that into Serpent Shrine Portal. Seems like something I'm definitely interested in.
Doge,
thank you so much.
Doge, what are you doing? Thank you. You can come to the stream. You're allowed to be here without giving money. You're allowed to... Oh no, Proby1's gonna... I see where this is going. We're about to be overloaded here ourselves. Yeah, and an important change... An important change that I think...
I mean, yes it is, but go ahead.
So Lightning Storm, there were those times where you would hit the hero power button and hope to both roll the Wrath of Air Totem and then hope to also hit 4 on all minions. Well, you won't be doing that anymore. Because first of all, Lightning Storm always does the same amount of damage. And second of all, there's no more spell damage totem. Dun dun dun! They changed to hero power.
They did.
So
not the way I expected.
This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I think this is the wrong totem. They changed the wrong totem.
You want them to hit the 1/1?
Yeah. Searing Totem sucks. It's consistently the worst one to hit every time. And I hate it every time I hit it.
I disagree. I'm sometimes happy to see it, just because it is the one that actually has power. It is a little bit interesting because this one also gives power, but it needs something else on the board in order to do that.
I mean, like, this new one seems balanced, but I already felt like pushing the Shaman Hero Power button was generally not very good unless you're playing specifically a totem deck, and I feel like instead of bringing the power level up a little bit by replacing this with replacing Searing Totem with this one, they brought the power level down because most of the time the more powerful one, I mean, obviously every one of them has its own use cases, but like, I don't know, it in my head this brought the power level more down in my eyes than it brought it up.
Go ahead.
So I disagree because spell damage was the one that was I think, I mean, all of them could have this to a certain extent, but spell damage was one of the totems that felt like kind of the knife juggler problem, where it was like, well, if I roll spell damage, I kill them. And just having access to that in the hero power for like burn decks is kind of dangerous, particularly when they're already giving enough spell damage identity to Shaman with other minions. And then the other aspect is when you're playing a control deck, most of the time you hit the hero power just because something to do, but they never were able to present any kind of threat. This way, your opponents are going to, like, if you're in some kind of control mirror, you hitting the hero power every turn and you get the one that snowballs lets your totems actually start presenting threat sooner by giving your O2 totems some attack.
So first of all, Proby1, thank you very much. We appreciate you competing with Doge, but you can seriously come here and watch for free. That's fine. Second of all, Appa is in chat. Appa, you okay, buddy? You doing all right? It's been a very exciting day for you. So, generic spell power, if they're moving away from it, it makes sense to lose it. But here's the thing. This was the best totem except when it was irrelevant. Right? Like, spell damage totem, your opponent was more likely to trade with it because sometimes it would just be a total blowout, and other times it would be garbage because your deck didn't have any spells that did damage, or you didn't draw them, or the extra damage didn't matter. And the variability there is a worse gameplay pattern than consistently making stuff that deals with the board. Healing every minion, buffing a minion, taunting minions, making a 1/1, it's board stuff. It's all board stuff. The spell damage one was an outlier. And it was by far the best, and also sometimes it was the worst because it didn't do anything, it was a blank O2. So removing it makes sense. The gameplay was inconsistent, and when it was the best one, it was really variable that 25% of the time your hero power won the game. You all remember Spirit Claws. For those of you that didn't play with Spirit Claws, it was a 1-mana 1/3 weapon. If you have spell damage, it gets +2 attack. So if you hit spell damage totem on turn 2, you had a 3/3 weapon, and your opponent lost. And sometimes you hit something else, most of the time, and it was different. And I don't know. The strength totem is still a powerful threat that they have to remove. 1 attack every turn is no joke. Like, that's not nothing. But it makes Shaman about the board. And so if the board sucks, then yeah, that's going to be a problem. It's still a hero power, right? And it's not like Paladin's hero power is tearing things up either. But it makes Shaman's hero power more consistent, more focused in terms of identity, and less swingy. And I like that a lot, even though I do think Strength Totem is quite strong. It's quite good.
Yeah, I just disagree with both of you. 100%.
That's
I don't
fine.
know why they took away spell damage to it. Like, everybody's talking about how they're reworking spell damage and they're removing it, and then they add Novice Zapper. Like, that just doesn't.
So spell damage is going to be class specific sometimes, and there's going to be a cost to it. Generic amounts are going to be in small numbers, and tribe specific things are going to be in larger numbers. But also, you make a decision to put Zappy Boy. You make a decision to put Zappy Boy in your deck. If you're playing a spell damage deck, you play Zappy Boy. You don't make a decision to add Wrath of Air Totem to your minion pool. If you were playing Bloodlust Shaman, you'd rather not have it. You'd rather just hit the other 3, or just hit the Strength Totem. But you have to hit the spell damage thing, even though you might not be playing damaging spells. Whereas other times, other Shaman decks, it's by far the best one, and you don't get to choose to eliminate any of the other totems. At least this makes the hero power more consistent as to what you're going to get out of it now.
Yeah, I would argue this makes Shaman less exciting, which was one of the main reasons that I enjoyed playing Shaman. So that's
Totem Roulette.
my opinion.
You played it for Totem
I'm
Roulette.
Okay. I mean, sometimes you need to hit the 1 and 4 so that you could zap them in the face and kill them for lethal. It's very exciting sometimes.
If you want to go to
And
wild and start
rather-
crackling,
sometimes-
if you want to
oh, man,
crackle in wild,
sometime- I don't want to crackle, but sometimes.
that's a 1
Alright,
and 4.
Sometimes. Sometimes. You get into these game states where you know you have you have like a 3-turn window to hit the spell damage totem, and every turn you just hit the button and you're like, oh, are we gonna get there? Oh, we didn't get there this time. They're not gonna kill me though, and they have no way to heal. And then next turn you hit it again and you miss, and you're like, okay, if they don't have any damage from hand, I might win the game next turn. And then you hit the button and you lava burst them in the face twice, and you lightning bolt, and then you win the game, and it feels awesome. But I've never been ever excited to roll a Searing Totem. The only time Searing Totem has ever affected me in any way, shape, or form is when I got hit by 2 7/7s on like turn 4 or whatever when I played against Totem Shaman that one time, and it was amazing. But other than that, Searing Totem is never exciting, and the spell damage totem every once in a while was exciting, even in decks that don't make full use out of it. So,
All right, Bodicus. Totem Shaman didn't really have a ton of burn to take advantage of spell damage. We don't really have Flame Tongue Totem. Now imagine you play Tour Guide on 1, get this new totem. It makes the Tour Guide a 2/1. And then you coin into Totemic Reflection, and now you have 2/4 totems that buff attack. Are you more excited?
well, no. My point is not that this totem should not have been added. It's that it should have replaced a different totem. That's my point. It should have replaced the Searing Totem. That was the whole point of it. And by the way, you did play things that cared about spell damage in Totem Shaman, and that's why it was exciting, because sometimes
you didn't.
you played Lava Burst. Hello? You
Okay,
don't
I
remember
didn't.
playing Lava Burst?
In Totem
play-
Shaman, no.
Yeah, sometimes you play Lava Burst. Sometimes you also played the 3-mana minion that discovered a spell that could get Lava Burst or Lightning Bolt, and then every once in a while you would like have a spell damage totem, and then you'd copy it, and then you'd play the weapon and copy 4 of them, and all of a sudden your Lava Burst is hitting them for a third of their life total. It was awesome. Spell damage totem will be missed by Bodicus, probably by no one else, and that's okay, but I will miss spell damage totem.
The most
I've got my
positive
Phoenix, I'm good.
The most positive experience I've ever had from spell damage totem roulette has been listening to you talk about it today on this show. That is by far the best thing that spell damage totem has ever done for Hearthstone for me, is it made you excited enough to share that with us. The actual gameplay experience of like, gee, I'm going to press this button next to my portrait and hope I win the game, less compelling. But hearing you get excited, I like that. That's nice. So I'm glad that you still have that experience, because you can share that with us forever. But I'm glad that in the game we can't do that anymore. But if you want a mode for that, it's called Classic. Have fun with your mediocre random shaman cards in Classic, because boy, are they still there.
That sounds real exciting. Remember all those classic decks we remembered from Shaman that were so excited to go back and play? I mean, we just talked about so many classic Shaman decks when we knew that the classic format was coming, right? There's so many of them.
The best play back then, by the way, coin hero power on 1 so you can slam Flame Tongue on 2. That was the best opening line that you wanted to take. Yeah, Casual R has the tagline for Classic Shaman in our Twitch chat. Classic Shaman, it's there. So anyways, that's the first piece of news.
I mean, so just kind of going along with the article and talking, we were just mentioning Classic. The Classic format will launch on with the 20.0 patch, where you can play Hearthstone as it was shortly after the game launched in 2014. All 240 original cards will be playable in the Classic format, with all balance changes since them reverted. We knew about this last week. I will say that we kind of talked about it a little bit, and while I'm definitely excited about BlizzCon, and this BlizzCon was maybe not quite as big as other ones, I feel like I almost kind of wish that the stuff we learned last week we all learned about at BlizzCon. I feel like it would have been a lot more exciting to me. but also very confusing.
I follow what you're saying, and this, like, they could have made it longer. They could have made this a longer event, and they could have given us more details there and more talking. But the way we engage with stream content is so different than the way we engage with it in person. And remember, the thing that I do want to call back to, remember how many hours we spent explaining Galakron to each other when we saw Galakron? Because they put out an article the same time they put it on the screen, then we went back to the hotel room and recorded a podcast, and we had to go through how Galakron worked about 4 times in one episode. And just, like, talking about how invoking works. I think that they didn't have good options, and this was, for a BlizzCon online event during a pandemic, this was awesome. For a BlizzCon, it was different and weird, and it could have been exciting, but it's hard to gauge, and they did give us a lot of stuff ahead of time, and we kind of knew a lot of it. But I think that if this was like 4 hours of news streamed at us, it'd be really hard to engage with it meaningfully and follow it all. And as it was still pretty dense, and a lot of the stuff isn't done. Like, a lot of the stuff isn't done. If they had had new game mode footage, Mercenaries footage to show us, sure. If they had had new BG's footage to show us, sure. They didn't have it because it's not done. And that also had to play into their decisions a bit of just keeping this short and sweet, because it had to have been a huge challenge for them, along with the general work from home challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily mean that they should have extended the amount of time this video. I think they could have done almost the exact same video that they did and had those big announcements, and then had all the info that got dumped on us last week just dumped at the same time, so we just had infinite stuff to go over, and it would have been super hyped because everybody would have been hyped asking questions. What does this mean? Core set, what's going on here? Classic format? Oh my god, all this stuff. Even though you don't have to necessarily dedicate a ton of time to it in the presentation in order for it to be extremely exciting. And maybe that's not the direction they wanted. I mean, that's obviously not the direction they wanted to go with it. But I think that definitely I was not. I think I would have been more excited about this BlizzCon if it just would have gotten just an avalanche of all of this information instead of split up kind of over 2 weeks.
I think I get where you're coming from, and I agree. I would have been like even more hyped to hear about Core Set at BlizzCon for the first time. It feels like that level of announcement, but I'm glad they didn't do that because of all the nitty-gritty details involved in the Core Classic situation. And just because, selfishly as content creators, it's easier for us to talk about, some of the stuff last week and some of the stuff this week.
It's
definitely easier for us not having this be a 4-hour show because everything got dumped today. That it's definitely. I was just talking to my excitement level, I guess.
Sure.
I get it, but this is also an off BlizzCon year, and I'm reading Twitch chat right now, and I didn't watch any of the other panels, but Steve is saying that Hearthstone had by far the most stuff, and they only had a 45-minute video specifically for them outside of the opening ceremonies. I don't know if they could have had more time. They left plenty of room for the Battlegrounds exhibition, but like they barely talked about BGs. They only verbally talked about the new game mode. I don't know if they could have handled sharing more new stuff and had people really follow along with it either, because it was still really dense, still really, really dense. But I get the hype stuff, but it's a lot.
Was last BlizzCon when BGs was first announced?
Yep. November 2019.
Oh.
It's only been a year and a couple months.
A year and 3 months,
no,
15 months.
It hasn't been 2 years? What is...
15 months. Yeah. It's the past year has not been great for keeping track of the passage of time, but also BGs feels like such a core part of the game now that it's hard to think about the fact that it's barely a year old. It's barely over a year old.
So weird to think about.
I mean, that was the major new game mode. First time ever we got a new game mode last BlizzCon, and we got a whole nother new announcement of a new game mode, Hearthstone Mercenaries. Pat, Remember when you didn't have any time ever because you're super
Okay,
busy
are
all
we
the
talking
time?
about this now? Are we doing this now? I had the Forge and the Barrens things up, but I will talk about Mercenaries for as long as you let me talk about Mercenaries.
I mean, I was just going in order of the article.
Okay, so they're putting a strategic RPG-based roguelike into the Hearthstone client. And something that's important to note, this is a drum we've been beating for a while. Something that I've talked about a few times, where Hearthstone is turning from a game into a platform. Ben Lee said that explicitly. He said Hearthstone is now a platform. And I talked to him about this because the question that I had in the interview today was, hey, haven't we done roguelikes like a lot? Haven't we done roguelikes in Dungeon Run and Monster Hunt and Dalaran Heist and Tombs of Terror and now Duels? And he's like, this is more different than you think it is. It's really, really different. It's more like Darkest Dungeon than Slay the Spire is the vibe that I'm getting, where you have party members. Yes, I know, you're gonna... But also, I can't imagine not playing this an unhealthy amount. Like a really unhealthy amount. With that being said, they showed no gameplay. They just talked about it. This has to be pretty far off. I would guess July. I would guess like 3 weeks before the second expansion of the year. That's my guess. Because if we're in March, the next one will be late July. I am guessing first week of July, maybe last week of June if we're lucky before we see this, assuming it's not delayed.
I'm glad to hear more like Darkest Dungeon, because everything I've seen so far talked about is a Slay the Spire type thing. And the thing that would worry me if this was like a Slay the Spire is that the things I like about Slay the Spire is the intense amount of difficulty that it brings, and if this did not have a amount of difficulty that felt rewarding enough for me to want to play, it would not be necessarily a game mode I'd be interested in. But since I have not done, I've seen gameplay of Darkest Dungeon and it looks awesome, but I have not done a lot of playing of it. I feel like if Hearthstone does its usual thing where it makes really, really good versions of game modes that people like to play, I'm really excited for what this new game mode has to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Edel?
I'm glad to hear it's more like Darkest Dungeon. My first concern seeing the map was, if we're comparing to Slay the Spire, I mean, the map looks similar, but that feels kind of short for a like a map for that style of game. I'm guessing it's somewhere in between because I'm assuming it uses cards, being Hearthstone. But
I don't know. I mean, based on the description, I don't know that it does. I mean,
wait, what's the question?
It would make sense. It doesn't.
Does it use cards?
It does not use your collection. Does not use your collection.
Well, no, it doesn't use your collection. But are they cards though?
I would assume, like, are the Battlegrounds things cards? Like, it's the same thing, right? Are the Battlegrounds units cards?
I mean, I would argue yes, they are.
Yeah, I assume that we're using the same basic building blocks of Hearthstone in terms of like cards and some kind of incremental resource system. But it seems as though you're going to assemble characters and they're going to have permanent changes, and just the nature of the game, of the mode, is going to be fundamentally different from what we're used to with constructed Hearthstone. And we should think of it more as like they're trying to make this into the next Battlegrounds equivalent, and it's going to be a larger scale reimagining. But it's still in the Hearthstone client, so it still has to use some level of Hearthstone assets and logic and all that.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking like Slay the Spire-esque in terms of, card game gameplay, but Darkest Dungeon-esque in terms of, you go on a mission and like level up your characters and then come back to a home base that is upgradable. I don't know, that's kind of where my head goes. And particularly, but then totally new aspect in that there's a PvP element. So after leveling up your characters, whatever, you can challenge real people with your team, which is interesting.
Yeah, and just reading the article here, Mercenaries features a fast-paced combat system that rewards cunning and anticipation. Before each fight, players will select mercenaries from their team to participate in battle. Each turn, they'll pick their team's actions simultaneously with their opponents and watch the results of the fight play out. This almost seems Pokemon-ish. Like, in a way. Or like a Final Fantasy game or something. This is weird. I don't know what to make of this.
I'm excited to see. I want to see gameplay. That's what I want to see.
I want to. No, I don't want to see it. I want to do it. I want to do the game. I want to play the game.
Yeah, that too. Okay, yeah. So...
I would like to watch it as I play it. I would accept watching it before I play it, but I would like to watch it while I am playing it.
Yeah, I mean, this is exciting, but also I don't think we have enough information. It's I just want more of this.
Agree.
So, in addition, just kind of finishing off the article real quick, Book of Mercenaries. So we have Book of Heroes, which is all 10 of the original heroes for Hearthstone. That is, this kind of saga is going to continue with the Mercenaries. After, of course, they finish the first 10, they will start with the 10 Mercenaries for the next year. And just more single player content for people, more lore for people to get into, and you get your packs and stuff like that as well. So you can look forward to even more single player and lore content in the game, which is always cool.
Did we talk about the Valera portrait? The Valera Mercenaries portrait?
I didn't get a good look at it.
I'm gonna put it up on the stream right now.
It's pretty awesome.
It's good. Like, there's Rexar in there, and there's a, I don't know, that looks like a Tauren.
Yeah, it's a Tauren.
But the Valera in the middle is
that she's punching in the face. By the way,
yes,
backhand punching in the face.
Oh, you think that's the portrait that they're going to use for the Book of Heroes?
For the Book of Mercenaries.
Wait, I'm confused. Wait.
There's a Book of Mercenaries as well as the Mode Mercenaries.
Okay, I missed that because they also announced they announced Valera Book of Heroes.
Yeah, they're all new mercenary characters. But I don't know. I assume that this new Valera art is going to be a portrait somehow. Maybe just in the game, like in the new game mode. I don't know. It's really pretty. It's a really pretty portrait. It's a really cool style. I like it a lot. They keep drawing dope Valeras. Like, they just, the over and over again, the level 50 Night Stalker portrait, and then Dio Chan, and then now the Mercenary Valera. Like, it's so many Valeras. And Book of Heroes Valera is the next Book of Heroes.
Right. I thought that's the one you were talking about, which I'm less interested in.
I'm not as excited as I am about the Mercenaries portrait.
Right.
And lastly, updating new and returning player experience. So they're going to remove the fights against Malfurion, Tyrande, and Hakar, and overhaul the legendary questline for returning players to reward a total of 15 card packs from recent expansions. For new players, we're updating both starting legendary quest lines so that several of the quests can also be completed in Battlegrounds, and will offer pack rewards from recent expansions instead of classic packs, obviously, because core set. They also made a few changes around unlocking Demon Hunter. Players will now be able to unlock Demon Hunter just like every other class fighting against the class in constructed or beating the class in practice mode. Completing the Demon Hunter prologue will still unlock the class, but will now reward one Demon Hunter class pack for players that have yet to complete it. And then finally, completing all Book of Heroes missions for a class will now unlock that class. And that's it for this is all the things around the new expansion. This is just Year of the Gryphon stuff, whole bunch of stuff coming in the pipes, but the ones coming most soon, the ones that are coming up real soon.
Most soonest, I believe, is the phrase you're looking for.
Look, man, I'm sorry, okay?
Maybe more sooner.
Forged in the Barrens. 135 new cards. Hamul Rune Totem card back and Hero Portrait available. Finally have a Tauren Hero Portrait. The new keyword for the set will be Frenzy, which means that when the minion does damage, it's
spellburst when it takes damage and survives. So it's a one and done.
Not deals.
Yeah, It's
Okay.
a one and done consumable effect, like Spell Burst, but it's when it takes any damage. So Inner Rage, obviously awesome. It does have to survive. Think of it exactly like Spell Burst. Instead of the trigger being when you play a spell, or after you play a spell, it's after this takes damage. So it has to live,
Okay.
but otherwise exactly the same as Spell Burst. So, for example...
And also doesn't trigger when you hit face, so...
It's not when it does
Good
damage,
note.
yeah, it's when it takes damage.
Right.
It's basically like 2021 Enrage. It's the new Enrage. So
That's why a lot of them have Rush.
yes, and there's the new 1/6 Blade Master Samuro, which is a 4-mana 1/6 with Rush and Frenzy when it deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. So like if you play this and then Inner Rage it, it deals 3 to all enemy minions.
Samuro hits me with some serious nostalgia from Warcraft 3.
Was he in a mission?
'cause
I don't remember him.
Oh yeah. You're supposed to deal with these. I think it's early on in the orc plotline. Maybe not, or maybe Alliance. No. I think it's towards the very beginning, like when you're playing as Arthas. You're supposed to deal with these orcs that are summoning, like dark magic or something like that. I think making sacrifices, and Samuro is, the Blade Master who is a part of that. I believe. Could be misremembering, but
Sounds plausible. I mean, this was 25 years ago, so
yeah, it's been a minute.
We also have 2 other Frenzy cards that were revealed. Are we going to do a section of new cards, or do we just want to go over all the new
right
cards
here,
we have
right now. Let's
Alright.
go.
Razor Maw Raider, 5 mana, 5/6 Frenzy, attack a random enemy. Also seems pretty good with Inner Rage, especially if they have no minions, because that's 7 damage face right away. 7 damage charge right to the face. And then Druid of the Plains, which is a 7 mana 7/6 with Rush and Frenzy, transform into a 6/7 Coda with Taunt. That is a very large removal spell / taunt minion in one card. That card seems pretty solid for for Druid. Off like defensively, seems like a pretty nice defensive card as long as your opponent does not play minions with more than 5 power.
But you forgot the most important frenzy card of them all.
Forgot about 1 mana one?
No, Peon. Forgot
Oh,
about
Peon.
Peon.
It's like a 2 mana 2/3, right? The adds a spell to your hand when you frenzy from your class?
Listen, I don't know what he does. I don't care what he does. If he says Zug Zug, I'm happy. I just want him to say Zug Zug. That is the most important thing. I will settle for a job's done and a what you want, but I want a Zug Zug. I want to click him a bunch of times and get a Zug Zug. Very important.
Oh man,
Wouldn't it be great?
When it attacks it's got to say, what you want.
Yes.
I would love if they made it one of those few cards that has multiple voice lines. They just throw in all the Peon voice lines from Warcraft. That would be
the stop
really
poking
great.
me is important.
When he dies, it'd be job's done.
Yes. And there was something interesting that they said in the intro of bringing Hearthstone back to its roots. And this is like, I know this is WoW. This is like Warcraft 2 level origins. This is Warcraft the RTS origin level of just stuff that's way, way back to not even Heroes of Warcraft, like actual Warcraft. And I dig that because I'm old and I played these games.
I didn't play 1, and I watched a little bit of 2, but I played 3 a bunch.
Nobody actually played 1, I don't think. Nobody actually played Warcraft Orcs vs. Humans. It was Warcraft 2 was the big one.
I watched all the story-related stuff in original Warcraft. That was it.
Yeah. And
I mean, we might as well, just since we talked about all the frenzy cards except one, because I like this last one too. The Sunscale Raptor, a 1 mana 1/3 beast with frenzy. Shuffle a copy into your deck and give it +2/+1, so then it becomes a 1 mana 3/4. And then,
if you do it again, it gets bigger. It's
wait, does it?
Yes. It doesn't lose frenzy when it gets shuffled in.
Because it says permanent.
I don't know how that works.
You think that it loses frenzy for gaining it permanently?
No, I don't think that. I think it would depending on how the buff works, it might just shuffle another 3/4 into your deck.
That's what I think happens.
I think it gets bigger every time.
It says permanent. Though.
Bigger every time is cool, but the way that buffs generally work, unless it specifically says permanent, like the way that I imagine this is coded,
it does specifically say permanent.
But the way that buffs usually work is that if something moves backward in zones, the buffs fall off. So if something moves from play to hand or hand to deck or play to deck or whatever, the buffs fall off. So I don't know if the buff supersedes that, like it's hard coded to never go away ever, because that's kind of weird with silence effects, or the way that I would imagine this is coded is it shuffles in, and then after it shuffles, it gives it the buff, so the buff doesn't fall off. And if it does that, then the copy will lose the first buff but gain the second buff and will stay at 3/4. We'll have to see it in action.
I think it's Kingsbane level. I think that it will continue to increase every time.
Maybe. It could be.
Hopefully that's the case, because that would be sweet.
It would be.
I like the card a lot.
Yeah, it's my favorite card revealed so far. It's a tough call. I like Samuro quite a bit. It's going to be interesting having that versatile one-sided board clear in all kinds of classes. Being able to Nitro boost poison Samuro and then rush it in, or just all the various ways you can buff its attack before rushing in. That's going to be really interesting. But I love that Hunter is getting a 1-mana beast that doesn't die to the Demon Hunter hero power. Because that's been a rough thing for the class for a while, is having turn 1 plays that don't die to Demon Hunter. So this, as our turn 1 in a Hunter, is going to feel really, really great. I love that you get a cheap, efficient version of it again later on, and I will be super happy if we see stuff like Dire Frenzy come back in core. Ixar kind of mentioned how much he loves the card. I'm hoping that means it's coming back, because I really want to see this hand buff beast going on. I want to see the 4-mana 2/4 come back to core that does damage as a battle cry equal to its power, because that never really saw play except as a beast off of Rexar, and I think it could have a real chance to shine with all the new beast buffs that Hunter has been getting.
No, Proby1 is a good point in chat. The wording on Sunscale Raptor is Frenzy, shuffle a Sunscale Raptor into your deck with a permanent +2/+1, not a copy of this card. So it can't scale. It's just another 3/4.
Okay.
So it just keeps making 3/4s.
I see it.
Yeah.
Still really solid. Still really solid.
Still want to Dire Frenzy it, though.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't Dire Frenzy it. I want you to Dire Frenzy it. But yeah,
but if you do Dire Frenzy and you play the Dire Frenzy copy, it will shuffle a 3/4 into your deck, because that is a buff that it will not keep. I do know that.
Yes. But also what I think is exciting, you remember the Spellstones? Well, how about Spellstones that upgrade themselves? Let's talk about Chain Lightning, for example. This is a Shaman Nature spell, a 2-mana epic spell. Deal 2 damage to a minion and a random adjacent one, singular. But this is a cycle of spells that automatically upgrade at 5 and 10 mana. You don't have to do anything. Their cost doesn't change. They just change what they do. So the Shaman one, for example, which goes from 2 damage to a minion and bonk an adjacent one, goes to 3 damage at 5 mana when you have 5 mana, and goes to 4 damage when you have 10 mana. The cost stays 2. Just means that if you draw these spells later in the game, or hold them for longer, they get better as you get more mana. That they stay relevant longer in the game. Cool. Yeah. I like the idea of putting cards in my deck that are good early game and better late game, and still serve a very specific purpose, because this doesn't go face. It only hits minions. And later in the game, the minions are going to be bigger, so the spell gets bigger. Cool. Nice.
And doesn't require it to be in your hand for it to get the upgrades is nice.
Yeah. It's just
because a lot of cards that upgrade, they have to be in your hand for something else to happen, like corrupt cards and stuff like that. So just having cards that get better, even though the 2 spells, because there was that one and then the Imp Swarm which is just a 2-mana 3/2, but then upgrades to 2-mana 2/3/2s, and very late game 2-mana 3/3/2s. Also, another interesting ranked spell, as they're calling it, upgradable cards. I mean, I like the cards, but I don't know that they're not super exciting to me. I'd like to see an exciting ranked card that I actually want to wait till I have 5 mana before I play it.
Yep, it's challenging to
Yeah, I
make one of
think
these that's balanced at 2, but is really good on turn 10. And I think they're gonna be usually flexibility has a cost. And so I'm guessing that these will be generally like unexciting support cards, except for the fact that when you draw out late game, you don't stare at the sky and wonder what you did wrong with your life. That they just like they become relevant as opposed to completely missed top decks. But I'd be surprised if they were pushing the envelope, because if you're making a card that you're guaranteeing is going to be good at all stages of the game, that's usually a problem.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting progression from, we had the spell stones, and then we had schemes as another version of upgrades each turn, like you were saying, but they had to be in your hand. And then we had Omega, the effect where if you have 10 mana crystals, it had like a huge increase in effect. If you think of the power level of some of those cards, this is just a really nice balance where they're just trying to keep it relevant at all points of the game, but not be overpowered. So I would actually be kind of surprised if anything has an effect that you would want to wait to use it until 10 mana crystals. I think that their effects are more likely just going to be, on par with the mana cost that you're, or the point in the game where you're playing it, rather than something that you intentionally want to wait until you can play it at 10 mana.
I'd be curious about say the priest one was like heal 5, heal 10, heal 15, which I don't think it will be that. I think they're looking at scaling in frequency, because it looks like they're either nudging up the number or nudging up the repetition. Because I don't think they would just give priest mass healing. But if it was like, say it was like 4, 8, 12, if you were on turn 9 against a more aggressive weapon based deck and you were at like 10 life, you would think hard about, do I gain the 8 now or do I gain the 12 next turn? And that would be an interesting decision. So, based on a complete hypothetical example with a card they haven't revealed yet that may not be the final design, but if you get like 4 more health for waiting 1 more turn, Witch's Brew on 5 mana versus 6 mana as an example. You really think, do I wait and get more value, or do I do it now because if I don't, I'll die? Can I afford to take the risk? Will the extra health win me the game? There's some opportunity there, but I think you're generally right that these are unlikely to be cards that become backbreaking later. They're usually more. It's a way to make them less bad, not more good. If that makes sense. Just to make them less of a liability later in the game.
Yep, and we kind of alluded to this next part earlier, but we have a new mechanic of spell schools. So not all, as I saw earlier, because I was looking at Feral Spirits, does not have a class of a spell school, but they're adding a bunch of these and going to be applying them to spells from previous sets. So the new spell schools are Arcane, Fel, Fire, Frost, Holy, Nature, and Shadow. And some examples of new spells that have spell schools would be like a Desperate Prayer, which is a new priest spell, 0 mana, and restore 5 health to each hero. It is a holy spell. And then kind of to combo with that, there are some cards that refer specifically to spell school types, like the Spirit Healer, which is a 4 mana 3/6, and after you cast a holy spell, give a random friendly minion +2 health. And then obviously Chain Lightning, which Hat had talked about, is a nature spell. So this is actually pretty interesting. So essentially, what adding spell schools does is now if you have Spell School's Matters cards in like a priest deck and you steal spells from another deck, it's more unlikely that it'll work together, I guess, which is kind of interesting. I think that, I mean, it just opens up so many possibilities. I'm really happy with this change. Actually, it just allows them to print more interesting cards, potentially powerful ones that have more of a niche effect on them. It's just like they added, what is it, 7 tribes, but it's on spells.
Yeah, and we've already seen a reveal from the new set as well that plays into this pretty hard. That they couldn't have done before. It's Brucon, the Shaman Legendary. It's a 4-mana 5/4 Shaman Legendary. It says Nature Spell damage +3, so only your Nature spells. So you're gonna look at +3 on a 4-drop with a decent body is crazy, but it's only like your Lightning Storms and your Chain Lightnings. We don't know how many of these nature spells go face.
Bolt.
Lightning Bolt.
Okay, if it's lightning, but Lava Burst is probably fire.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Even so. Serpent Shrine Portal.
Yeah, 1 mana.
Serpent Shrine Portal, I don't know.
I don't know about Serpent Shrine
fireballs are pretty good.
Yes. And if you go this guy and then 1 mana bolt your face for 6, like that's powerful. Storm Strike doesn't go face. Fork Lightning, I assume, is not going to stick around.
Storm Strike does go face.
Okay, the attack goes face.
Just not the nature part.
Okay. Serpent Shrine Portal, I don't know. Lava Burst is fire. Frost Shock is probably frost, if I had to guess.
So we won't know until they reveal the core set stuff for Shaman, how good this is really going to be.
Which is next week, by the way. We'll get the full core set reveal on the 25th.
Oh, very good, very good. So I'm happy to know about that soon. We don't even know if Lightning Bolt will be sticking around. Obviously, Lightning Storm is. If it's more of these cards like Chain Lightning, Lightning Storm, then this is a sort of buff my control tools side of card. I would be kind of sad if Lightning Bolt goes away. That feels like one of the few standbys of Shaman that's been pretty good. But depending on the card pool of 1 mana spells in Shaman that stick around, Wand Makers could be giving us Lightning Bolts. Maybe you try and collect a bunch of Lightning Bolts, go for a big burst turn with this. I don't know. There's a lot of discover pools and randomly generated pools that are dependent on what the new core set is going to be like. And I would be surprised if there isn't, I don't know, at least one thing that goes face for Shaman nature in the new set. We'll have to see.
I mean, we honestly don't know if Lightning Bolt's still going to be in the core
set.
That's
what I mean, yeah.
And you don't print a 4-mana 5/4 with +3 spell damage along with a bunch of cheap direct damage that goes face. You don't do that, and you don't say, we're opening up design space by making all these spell tribes, and like Lightning Bolt and Lava Burst are nature, go nuts. You know, turn 8, you take 14. No, they're not going to do that. There's no way they do that. So I would envision larger scale nudging in Shaman. I would guess that, I don't even know if Lava Burst is going to stick around because there's never been a point where that card's ever felt healthy to play against. Lightning Bolt, maybe. Maybe. Or maybe they do a Lightning Bolt that only targets minions. They could nudge it. They could easily do that.
So you're saying they're not going to add Moonfire as a nature spell to go along with Brucon? So you can go turn 6.
Well, Brucon is a Shaman card, and Moonfire is a Druid card, so they theoretically could do that. But also...
And Rogue gets to burgle them and play it.
Yes. Rogue always breaks thing. But yeah, I could see Zap coming back instead of Lightning Bolt. I could see that. Because Zap is definitely a nature card, and that does not go face.
I mean, it's kind of interesting. They're definitely... the direction they're going with Shaman, I feel, is very interesting, because the direction I had envisioned was them kind of moving away from Overload and maybe moving to a different hero power. But with the way that they've changed the hero power, adding the new totem, they're definitely locked in on keeping Shaman having having a totem hero power. And then also with all these changes to the power level of the Overload cards, they're seems like they're doubling down on Overload cards too. So I guess this is the new direction for Shaman, but I guess they're just kind of looking at making their core set of Shaman cards better so that you're not scrounging for... Shaman's not either broken when all of the cards from a set are broken or unplayable when they don't get a lot of love in an expansion. So
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Please bring Thunderhead back. Please bring Thunderhead back. We can get away with Thunderhead, right? We can do that. Voltaic Burst is a nature spell.
Zap.
And Voltaic Burst maybe, but yeah, Thunderhead Zap. Let's do it. Let's bring it back. They're clearly putting Rush in the core set, and also something to note: all the core set cards are way more complicated than Boulder Fist Ogre. There's no more Boulder Fist Ogre. Like they printed a neutral legendary. Not that the rarity matters. That has Rush and hand buff. Like that's a card that everybody gets access to. The cards are going to be more complicated. They can put something like Thunderhead in the core set. They could do that.
Yeah, and Thunderhead's like straightforward enough too, because it even says whenever you play an Overload spell, get 2 1/1s with Rush. It's not like get 2 of this card that you have to know specifically what it is.
Yeah,
like get 2 animated broomsticks. I couldn't think of a 1/1 with Rush.
It's not like Nithog, where you make some eggs and then you hatch your eggs.
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of complicated shaman cards. There aren't too many.
But
Hagatha.
Oh, Hagatha
yeah.
is. They said there are no hero cards in Forge of the Barrens.
Not that Hagatha. I mean the
Swamp
Minion
Queen Hagatha. Yes.
Yeah, Swamp Queen.
Either Hagatha. There are no easy Hagathas. No simple Hagathas.
Yeah.
But how do you two feel about Dirty Rat?
I feel pretty good about it.
How do you feel about a 5-mana Dirty Rat-esque card? In Shadow Hunter Vol'jin, a 5-mana 3/6 battlecry, choose a minion, could be either side, and then swap it with a random one in its owner's hand.
Oh wait, it could be either side?
Yeah, you could go Wisp Vol'jin, and
oh
then
boy,
switch it
totally
with Yashiraj or something.
You just
totally
gave Edelweiss Madame Goya Shaman back. Madame Goya Shaman is back. Because you can also, in Shaman, you have totems. So you totem and then drop a Scrapyard Colossus into play. Sure.
We also have Tour Guide.
Sure.
So you can make your hero power 0 leading into that turn.
Yeah. You can do stuff. It
is a legendary minion though, so I mean Madame
Madame
Goya
was
also legendary, so sure. But
it was just we hadn't had Recruit before then, so
right.
Yeah.
And kind of lastly, the last card that I'm seeing for Forged in the Barrens is kind of goes along with this whole theme of mercenaries, and I believe this is the main mercenary of the set, which is Mankirk. Maybe not the main one, but one of the mercenaries of the set. It has a bit of a story behind it, but Mankirk is a 3-mana 3/4 battle cry. Help Mankirk find his wife.
Wait, Mankirk, Bodicus.
Mankirk?
This is not a mercenary. Did you not play Classic? Classic WoW? This is one of the most famous WoW Classic characters. So this is not one of the mercenaries.
I'm embarrassed.
It's okay. So Mankirk...
Aguilar told me about this.
Yes. This is a throwback to Classic Barrens. Mankirk and finding Mankirk's wife. Remember how in WoW Classic there's no map? And we were roaming around looking for Tall Strider beasts and beaks. And then you get this quest. Where is Mankirk's wife? And she is hard to find, hard to track down. And Barrens chat back in the day was always, where is Mankirk's wife? Where is Mankirk's wife? So they made a reference here. By the way, spoilers, she dead, bro. She didn't make it. She got quilled. And
That's definitely not what I remember Barrens chat being, but I'm glad
Okay.
that that's what you remember Barrens
It
chat
was not
as
the only thing that happened in
as-
Barrens chat, but this is a family show, and we're not going to go into details. I'm just saying, finding Mancrick's wife was one of the things that Barrens chat was used for, and it shuffles.
Well, I hope that finding Mancrick's wife is as difficult as it was in the game, because it shuffles a 3/10 into your deck that when it comes into play, it attacks right away.
Well, yeah, it shuffles a 0 mana cast when drawn spell in. That when you draw it, you get a
This is,
3/10 Mancrick, and he mad because she dead, and then he go face right away.
I'm very much looking forward to the Stowaway Rogue.
Yeah. And we're probably not playing this card. It's not a good card, but it's very flavorful.
I mean, it's very good if the next card you draw is a 3/10 that hits face right away on turn 3 or 4, but it's less good if you draw it later in the game.
I kind of want to Grave Rune this just for the memes.
Well, it's a battle cry, so Grave Runing doesn't do very much.
Oh, I assumed it was a death row.
No.
Okay.
No.
He
Fine.
lives. She doesn't. Spoilers.
Right.
She's dead. Yeah. Also,
Oh.
Stowaway rotates out.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, sorry about all your dreams that we just crushed there.
Damn. I was assuming since Ticketmaster is a shuffle in thing that it was sticking around. But
Yeah, I think they didn't want those around forever. Because in the 4-set meta, that'd probably be a really strong thing to do. Also, Grave Rune rotates.
Man,
all of your dreams are dead.
I've got to do my deep dive on like what's sticking around and what isn't.
Yeah, next Thursday
we will have the Rogue Legendary that tutors for cards in your deck.
Yes, next Thursday, the core set will be revealed, and we'll probably go over those cards. And the Thursday after that, I imagine that we'll start sunsetting a lot of the cards that are rotating out, because we've got a lot to talk about that's leaving the format.
Bloodsworn is rotating, right?
Bloodsworn, Skipper, Wrench Caliber.
Okay. As long as Bloodsworn rotates, because I could see this card and Bloodsworn being disgusting.
Yeah, I could see the Frenzy Mechanic and Risky Skipper being disgusting. So those two will never coexist in Standard, because that would be a thing.
The first thing I said in our little show chat was Animated Broomstick nerf when? Because if they have really good Frenzy cards, Animated Broomstick gets better somehow, because that card needed to get better.
They've alluded multiple times, not even alluded, they've directly said multiple times they've talked about nerfing Broomstick a lot lately. I imagine this is a part of it, and I imagine there is a near future, where the card costs 2, or it doesn't give itself rush or something, or maybe it's only adjacent minions, I don't know. There are a lot of knobs to turn in that card, and it's better than I think everybody expects it to be.
I think it would still be a good card if it was adjacent minions.
It would be, yes.
And so, with all of that, the pre-purchase bundle, as they have with every set, is here. They have the mega bundle, which includes 80 Forged in the Barrens card packs, 5 golden Forged in the Barrens packs, 2 random Forged in the Barrens golden legendary card packs, Hamul Rune Totem Druid Hero, the Hamul Rune Totem card back, and Battlegrounds perks. I'm glad that they updated what they called this, because Tavern Pass, it's not confusing anymore. You don't get the pass for the Tavern Pass with this.
Yeah. Well, this is what they did last time. It's just that was the immediate name change.
It's more clear.
Well, no, we're more used to it, because they listed out Battlegrounds perks last time, but it was when they changed the word Tavern Pass to mean something else in the immediate next expansion, people got mad, but now it means the same thing that it did last time, not the same thing it did in Scholomance. But we have the expectation of the Tavern Pass, the cosmetic paid Tavern Pass with the bonus experience will always be a paid separate thing, not included in bundles, because it is truly meant to be opt-in, and it truly is opt-in, and it's really only cosmetics. The boost is nice. It is not worth $20. If you don't want the cosmetics, don't buy the boost. Like, straight up. So they're never going to include it in the bundle, because they would be forcing people into buying it when they really just want the 80 packs.
Yeah.
And Did they have this last time? The $50 bundle includes 60 packs and two random legendaries. Not golden legendaries, just random regular legendaries, but I used to think that this was 50 packs. Was it 60 packs last expansion too? Or did they slightly upgrade the $50 bundle?
The last one was $40. The last time was $40 for 45 packs. It was a little cheaper.
Oh, okay. So it's a little cheaper, but it was $10 cheaper and 15 less packs.
And only one legendary.
So, okay. So
right.
I would say this is probably an upgrade for most people, unless you really wanted the essentially $2 or two $20 bill price point of that pack, but feels like you get a little bit more for this. So overall, and then also if you log in today, you will get the Shadow Hunter Vol'jin for free, as well as the BlizzCon card back. What did you two think of the card back? I thought it was really cool. It's very different from all the other card backs. I like it a lot, actually.
You're entitled to that opinion. I think it's hideous.
I like it.
This
really?
is what
yeah.
Oh, I don't think it's...
This is what I wanted from... I mean, we just get it for free instead of having to get the pass or whatever, the pass to watch BlizzCon that they usually do.
I like that I didn't have to pay for this because I wouldn't have.
Yes.
I mean,
I might have. I don't know.
I probably wouldn't have, but I like having it in the random pool. It'll be a nice little memory, like 30th.
I'm not upset that I have it, but I'm not going to use it. And the big blue 30 at the top is a little garish for my tastes. But it's free, and whoever likes it can use it, and that's rad. I'm not here to judge. You asked what I thought. I don't think it's that great, but it's for whoever likes it. You can use it. It's totally free. Enjoy your card back.
I'm gonna be happy to not notice when it pops up as one of my random card backs whenever I'm playing, because I never know. I have the random card back going whenever I play. I never notice one. I've never noticed once what card back I've been using, but it's nice to have in there.
Yeah. By the way, you remember how you said we got a free legendary today? You know why?
This is gonna just this coming out early combined with the fact that I didn't realize you can use it on your own stuff means enjoy Malygos for a bit, people. Because you can put Malygos into play for 5 mana.
Okay. If we're talking about formats where turn 5 Malygos is not that special, we're in it right now. Turn 5 Malygos, like, Allura tip on 4 is better than Malygos would be on 5, and with the rogue deck...
I mean, we're not saying on turn 5, we're just saying as part of a, combo to kill your opponent.
Sure. I don't anticipate this being super impactful, but it's fun.
Did you happen to say Allura on 4 hat? Did you mention
did.
Allura on 4? Because that's not possible. Well, it's still possible, but it's unlikely to happen on turn 4 anymore because Allura got a hit with the nerf bat. And this is special and not special at the same time because most people probably saw this coming because that card was too good at 4 mana when you're tipping the scales.
Okay, hold on. I have important news. Before we get to talking about the Allura nerf, which I'm very happy about, there is one card that is not Paladin and not Priest in Hearthstone's history with the Holy Spell tag. Can you figure out what it is? Ready?
I don't have a database in my mind.
You let me think about this, and then we move on, and then I will get it. I will think about it.
So, just to restate, we'll come back to this. Lopper in chat just got it. It's Renounce Darkness. Renounce Darkness is a holy spell, which I love. Which I love.
It's amazing.
Well done, Lopper. Yeah. So every holy spell is either a priest card, a paladin card, or it's Renounce Darkness. For those of you that weren't playing back then, Renounce Darkness is an awesome card. It's a 2-mana warlock spell where you transform all of your warlock cards and your hero power into a different hero power and a different class, and they all cost 1 less. Card's not great, right? But it's random and it's fun, it's interesting, and it's a holy spell because you're giving up the darkness.
That means they stealth made a paladin priest dual class card
And
in
made it
this
purple.
set. It just gets to be neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that they made Renounce Darkness holy. I think that's so cool. No, it is not in core wash. It's a retroactive. At least we don't know if it's in core, but it's the only collectible holy spell in Hearthstone's history outside of Priest and Paladin, which I think is fantastic. So 19.6, which, by the way, for those of you that work in software, the Hearthstone team decided to patch the client Friday night at 4 o'clock local time during BlizzCon, which is brave. Now, apparently, some engineers moved their day later and they worked less earlier in the week. And just like how Blizzard employees worked the weekend at BlizzCon, they wore blue shirts and they worked floor shifts and all that. They patched the Friday before BlizzCon, or Friday of BlizzCon, after BlizzCon. They fit in the Allura nerf from 4 to 5. They fit in adding Vol'jin into everyone's collection. And they changed a ton of stuff about Battlegrounds and a ton of stuff about duels. And the Book of Heroes Valir is coming in the pre-order. So we've got a whole lot of changes here. But yeah, Allura to 5. Good. That is my commentary. Good. Nice nerf.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. Something we didn't touch on that was announced regarding Battlegrounds update is the first Battlegrounds only tribe was announced. It's not going to be live yet, but Quillboars will be the new tribe for Battlegrounds, which is pretty cool. I don't know what that means, but they're gonna have their own resource, and from what I understand or what I've been told is they have a very unique play style which is different from other stuff, which is great because that's what I'm looking for with major content updates is the ability to play in a different way, and we'll see how this minion type interacts with the other minion types and all of that. So looks like we'll have more information on Quillboars in April. And then we'll get into what actually changed today. So, Darkmoon Prizes. Nicolina was not a fan. They're gone. I mean, they were planning on being gone probably a little while ago, but now they're definitely gone. So those of you who were not enjoying the Darkmoon Prizes do not have to worry about it anymore unless you play against that one champion or the one hero that
Ticketus.
yeah. And also there was a nerf to the many Golden's Khadgar strategy, where instead of checking for triples after each minion is summoned, all minions will now summon first before any triples are generated. So this is quite a big nerf to the Khadgar strategy of getting a bunch of golden minions, but Khadgar gets to stay in the pool, which I like because I think there are some pretty cool Khadgar shenanigans you can do at different points in the game. So I think this is, for me, I like this change a lot. We also have a update to the hero pool. Captain Hooktusk has been temporarily removed from the hero pool. Didn't see a lot of her, so don't know that she'll be missed.
This is temporarily, so I assume they're just figuring out
Right.
how to rework her because she's either been broken or terrible. So, yeah.
In the Edelweiss, can you say the name? Because I like when you say the name of this next hero.
Which one? Yasharaj?
Yeah, that one. The old hero power added a minion from the tavern tier to your warband, and you got to keep it. Now you get it for the combat, and then it goes into your hand, which is infinitely better, significantly better for this hero that I'm just not going to pronounce because Edelweiss pronounces it so much better than I do. Not Edelweiss, Elise Starseeker has been reverted, so the recruitment maps now cost 3 gold again. That used to be kind of a mediocre hero power, so we'll see how it works with Darkmoon Fair tickets removed. It's
I'm
interesting
surprised
timing.
they should have nerfed this when they made Darkmoon Prizes. Like, it's a very simple nerf. It was already in the game. It was how Elise used to work. And it was way too good because the Darkmoon Prize meta was a power level meta. And then Elise became the best power level hero because they buffed the hero power. Why not do this 2 months ago and then try going back to 2-mana now? Because it wasn't that good without Darkmoon Prizes.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what the meta shapes up to be now. I think it's pretty hard to tell whether it's still going to be a power leveling meta or not, or if people are going to continue to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming people who play Infinite more Battlegrounds than I do will have a better idea. King Mukla, big banana drop rate increased to 1 out of 3. Let's go. Mukla, get back in there. I actually like playing Mukla even though he's not too great. Akazamzarak, Ice Block can now only be discovered once per game. You get 1. That's the one you get.
Why was this not done sooner? Why didn't we just do this?
Remember what they did is they had Akazamzarak where it had equal weighting to all of the other secrets, and then they're like, no, we're going to make it so after you discover the first one it's much less likely, but technically you can still do it, and that's how it's been for a while. But now it's just once you get 1.
But when they had the issue where you could just Akazam every turn, and because they had taken a secret out and you would always get Ice Block, why not just put this restriction then, and then you're fine? I am guessing they did not have the tech to do this yet, to dynamically adjust the Discover pool, because this makes so much more sense and would have been doable every time. I'm glad they did this. This is a good change. I'm just surprised they didn't do it sooner. So I'm guessing they couldn't have done it sooner because it's a really elegant nerf as opposed to adding a secret back in.
Or they just wanted people to be able to discover 2 ice blocks in a game. Not saying it's right or wrong, but
yeah,
it's possible. Rabid Soralisk now is
so hold on. We're gonna live edit. I didn't realize there were 8 minion changes, and we're 2 hours in. Let's skim. Okay. Let's skim a little. I like the Illustra part. We can talk about the Illustra part, but then we can gloss.
Which ones are relevant? Rabid Soralisk got changed. Rax Spider Togwaggle got changed. Yoho Ogre got changed up to a 2/6. That seems relevant.
The ones that I like are, it seems like taunts got buffed a lot. Like everything that got buffed is the taunt, but Junkbot to 4 is pretty cool.
Oh man.
And
I'm
Illustra
gonna get baited so hard by Molten Rock. Yeah. I already was picking Molten Rock so much. I played this card way more than I should be. And now it's even better. Not a whole lot better, but it is better.
They also deleted Illustra, which seems important. So let's go back to the beginning of this section, and then we can gloss over the minions, and we can quickly gloss over duels because not a lot of people play duels. And then we can finish the show.
Champion of Yasharaj got buffed too. Okay, go ahead.
So, and in addition, they changed 8 minions and deleted a 9th. Illustra 7/7 to 4/4 to Gone in a 2-month period, which is pretty surprising, even though I think the card had some interesting strategies, but also it made it pretty hard to interact with them. I remember how much better Golden Beasts felt, Golden Rivendare Beasts, when you have an Illustra. They just can't stop you from making your minions triple digits. So I'm not super surprised that she fell out, but it's different. And it looks like they actually had a large-scale buff. They buffed a couple small early-game scaling minions, Rabid Soralisk, Wax Rider, Togwaggle. The important buffs here, I think, they really made the taunts a lot better. The taunt tribal, like Arm of the Empire, which did give +3 attack when a taunt minion's attacked. It's +2 attack permanently now. And Champion of Yasharaj, instead of starting as a 2/2, it starts as a 4/4. I still really want to play Greybow taunts. I really want to do it, so I hope it's better. And then Junkbot! Junkbot! At BlizzCon, when Battlegrounds was first announced, mechs were broken because Junkbot on 4 was so good. He's back. Eat junk, punk. He's back.
I mean, we don't have Cobalt still, so we have a imitation of Cobalt, but it's no Cobalt.
No. But Junkbot on 4 will still
But
be
yes,
better.
it's definitely better, and mechs needed the help. Kangar's also got a buff, pretty irrelevant. But yeah, and then the taunt's getting better. Molten Rock getting better. Happy about that. But we also have some duels balance updates. Just go over them real quickly. Few hero powers got changed. They really went to town on some paladin cards, reducing their casting cost by 2 on multiple cards. Means that paladin needed a lot of help because these powerful effects and getting them 2 turns earlier. Paladin must have been in a really bad spot.
It was awful. It was really, really bad. Yeah, the short version here is the mage hero power that dealt 1 damage and gave you a 1/1 freezy elemental. That should have cost 2, not 1, so they made it cost 2. The paladin cards that were overcosted are now fair compared to the rest of duels. And the warlock cards got worse because they were all insane. And Killmox got nerfed again. This card used to give +2/+2. Now it costs 7 and gives +1/+1. And the Demonizer got nerfed too by 1 mana. So closer to balance. They still left double time in the game for some reason that I can't really understand, which is the most broken passive treasure. But otherwise, step in the right direction. And I don't know. Duels doesn't seem like it's a format that's meant to vie for major attention. The term that I heard used earlier today in the interview that I keep referring to that we'll talk about tomorrow extensively is that it's a support format and not a premier format. And support formats are the second thing you do after you finish playing your BGC or ranked or whatever. And duels is good for that. But I don't think that expecting it to get the same kind of attention as a premier format is likely just because they can't do everything all at once.
Do you think Killmox would have just been better if it, instead of going from +2/+2 to +1/+1, just went from +2/+2 to +2/+0? And it was just 1 big life gain hit, but it didn't just leave this gigantic minion around?
I mean, there are a bunch of ways to make the card worse. I think they want duels to still feel powerful and swingy. I'm just glad this is not... The thing about Killmox, it was so demoralizing because they would keep discarding it and showing you that they had it, and then you couldn't do anything about it anyways because if you were an aggro deck, they just played it on 6, and then they gained 10 life and had it 10-6 or whatever. And just being a turn slower means that more aggressive strategies are just more viable. But it could have been +X+O, like that's an option that's still available to them. I'm glad they're keeping it powerful but making it slower. That seems like a good start to me. Well, not start, a good next step, because they already started and it was not enough.
Yeah, I think the extra turn is a really big deal. So many times I would be an aggro deck and just think, well, we didn't get there in time because I don't have an answer to that 6 cost, and they gain all their life back. And often I was just 1 turn too slow, so now I would win those games.
Yeah, glad they did something. It also looks like they have a giant bug fix list, like a lot of them. Transfer Student finally has the Corrupt. You can finally see Corrupted Transfer Student, which has been a couple months late. There are some other bugs that we knew about, like the Dreaming Drake bug, where it would drop all buffs when you corrupted it, and the Duels bug, where the Shaman hero would say 2 voice lines at the same time. It was a little weird. That's gone away. You know, there's a lot of different things. But
oh, so I can embiggen Dreaming Drake again now.
Yes, were you doing that before?
I tried it when the set came out, and I was weirded out by the fact that it would then cost the same amount of mana, or like it would go back to the 3 cost 5/6 after being corrupted.
Yeah,
lose the +2/+2.
It was a bug.
Cool.
Yeah, we already talked about Book of Heroes Valera, March 2nd, coming out. It's been a long show, lots of information, lots to talk about. Excited to see the new cards cut in the coming weeks, but I think we could probably move to coin concedes.
Yeah, it's only been 2 hours of literally just the news section, and we're doing another podcast tomorrow. Oof. So much. BlizzCon. It's here. Except, I can hear myself think. There's no Hilton lobby. Don't have to pay for a hotel room or drive back home. We're just back home already. So,
I mean, don't get to.
I liked it, but it was exhausting, and I do miss it. But there are some nice creature comforts to know that, like, we can finish talking about this, and then, like, my bed is right there. But yes, there are ups and downs. So, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, coinconcede.com. You can find our content info, show notes, Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live. Following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats and our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write to our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/coinconcede. Like some CC swag, head over to shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number 3 Itinerant Wizard, Doge TK, Proby1, Dr. Feach, Boopty Bop, Pat T, Crush, Cat, B Squatch, and David P. So many. So, big thanks as well to the people that subbed during the show, Razix, Frostmorn, Zenshi, and our continually dueling producers, Doge TK and Proby1. Thank you so much. Also, Washing the Wind, thanks for the raid. Got a few coin concedes here. Bodicus, you start.
Yeah, I just want to coin concede to everybody who was able to get a BlizzCon online thing going. The fact that they were able, it still was a great product. Honestly, watching it, I felt like they did a really great job, especially given the time and everything. I just thought it was pretty exciting to see all of the stuff that's got going on, and glad that Hearthstone has an exciting future year coming up. I think there's a lot of big things coming out, and just kind of hoping for more information. So we'll see how it goes. But overall, great BlizzCon experience so far. Excited to see what they have in store for us tomorrow and talk about it more tomorrow on our other show.
Edelweiss?
Yeah, I wanted to quite concede to everyone who's weathering the storm right now and earlier. You know, a lot of people like to meme about places getting snow that don't usually get snow, but legit, when you don't have the infrastructure for it, it can be much more challenging even than the larger amounts of snow that we might get in the northern parts of the country. So, yeah, my heart goes out to everyone that is dealing with no power, all the cold, and everything that's going on right now. You know, that stuff is really challenging. And then different coin concede to Alec Dawson, just for being really communicative and kind. Like it's nice to be able to reach out to a dev and talk about things and actually get a response. So yeah, it was really great seeing him in the video that we had earlier as well. I don't know, something about him always just puts a smile on my face.
He's a pretty boy. You can just say it.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And has nice hair. Yeah. There were a lot of people involved in getting this thing going. So definitely as well, coin concede to Fabio Lozito, who is my PR contact, our PR contact here, and also did a lot of work at making the production happen this time. And also worked on getting all the announcements and the interviews together. Very busy day. Really swell guy. Big thanks as well to Chris W. He's in our Discord. He works at a Texas power plant and explained to us some of the stuff that's going on and gave a really nice first-hand perspective that was super enlightening. Coin concedes to Tiago over at HS Replay. He lives in Austin. Stay warm, buddy. I hope your power comes back soon. And anyone else that's in Texas that's affected, our heart goes out to you. I hope everything stabilizes and your power bills stay low. Also, coin concede to PC Gamer. I got another article over there that was not about Hearthstone, and it was a lot of fun to write about games that don't take a lot of clicking. And yes, Slay the Spire is on the list, but there are a bunch of other really good ones over there, like Into the Breach and Gorogoa and so on and so forth. So feel free to check it out if you like that sort of stuff. And that's going to do it. We're going to try and edit this and turn it around real quick. And by we, I mean me. So keep calm and enjoy your BlizzCon weekend. And if you see us on the ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
I don't know why my soundboard's output is so low, but it's really low. All right. Hey, thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm going to get going on editing right now. We're going to try and get things going. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for being there. BlizzCon hype. And we'll see you tomorrow. We're going to be on I'm not sure. We're actually not streaming it, are we? We're not streaming it. No. Yeah. No, we're not streaming it. So we're going to record it tomorrow and try and get it up on Sunday, but we're not streaming it. So we'll see you next week, next Thursday. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.